Good evening, everyone. So we are going to configure Elastic Load Balancer. So what is a load balancer? Load balancer are servers that forward internet traffic to multiple EC2 instance. Our EC2 instance hosting web server. So one EC2 instance is not enough to handling user traffic. So we are going to configure multiple EC2 instance with same configuration. But our traffic is only going one EC2 instance because we have one common DNS. So we have to configure a load balancer. What load balancer does? It's equally distribute your user traffic in between EC2 instance. You can see in our diagram, user 1 and user 2, user 3 same time access your EC2 services. But load balancer is equally distribute traffic from one EC2 instance from other EC2 instance. So we are going to configure elastic load balancer. So first of all, we have to create minimum two EC2 instance. I'm going to launch two instance. I'm using AMI Linux. We are going to give web server. Now we have to create key pair. So create the key pair, give the name. I'm giving the name ELB and creating, and then we have to create a security group. So we have to allow SSH traffic and we have also allow HTTP traffic for our web server. And then we have to install some services. So I am going to upload user data is a basically script. It's copy your script like we have to configure our web server. So I already write. You can write same way and then copy and paste your here. So whenever your EC2 instance created, these services already running your EC2 instance. We have to configure two EC2 instance. So I'm give this two and launch your EC2 instance. Go to your instance and give the name. I'm going to give the first web server. So we have to know this is my first web server and this is my second web server. So I'm going to give this second web server. So this to my servers. So what are we going to configure? Elastic load balancer. So first of all, we have to wait for initialize this EC2 instance. Then we are going to configure elastic load balancer. So in few minutes, this instance are going to run. So we have to configure security group for our elastic load balancer. Go create the security group. We give this name ELB Elastic Load Balancer Firewall. And what are going to allow? I'm going to allow only HTTP traffic and give the rule, select the add rule and only allow HTTP from anywhere and create your security group. So we have to create security group and then we have to create also a target group. Select the target group, create the target group where we are going to target. Elastic load balancer we have to target for instance. So I'm choose the instance. If you are going to target for IP address, then you have to select IP address. So I'm going to instance and then we give to name. So I'm going to give the name web server and which protocol? HTTP protocol, IPv4 address, VPC, HTTPN. First, we are going to use HTTP version 1, then go to next, uh, only web server. We cannot use underscore, we are going to use hyphen. Create your and select your EC2 instance. My first web server and second web server where our load balancer target. So where our load balancer equally distribute traffic. So we have to select this and then Select this also and go to create the target group. Now our target group created. So go to your instance, check your instance is running or not. Yes, my instance is running successfully. Now I have to connect this instance. Connect. I'm going to connect this second instance also. Connect. Login through sudo su root user. I have to configure our web server, so I have to type echo and I'm going to copy paste is. I have to configure first. Notice this is my second web server, so I have to type second web server and copy and paste here and press enter. Press Ctrl C. There is some mistake. We have to and then hit enter. Now it's okay. In my first EC2 instance, I already configured, so I don't need to configure. I have to go to our instance and check by accessing their public DNS. Our website is running or not, so we have to check. Wait for my second web server. So this is my second web server, or what this is. So I have to give name different. Wait for its work. So I have to give this name. So I have to also connect and I am going to give this is my first web server. So I need to select first and copy and login through root user and paste and here is mistake, so we have to type enter. Now this is my second web server, so we have to wait for copy this DNS and paste. This is my first web server or this is my second web server, so I have to interchange their name. So I have to give this name first. First, hit enter, and I have to change this name. I have to give this is my second web server. Why I am going to do? Because whenever use Elastic Load Balancer, your traffic is equally distributed in both. So where I am going to confirm this, if this traffic is going to one instance and this traffic is going to second instance. So that's why I'm created first and second web server in my website name. So we are going to configure Elastic Load Balancer. We already configure security group for our ELB because when ELB is launched, we are going to configure Elastic Load Balancer. So we need separate firewall security group and we have to create target group. So I already created the target group. So now we are going to create load balancer. So create the load balancer. We are going to create application load balancer because we are going to use web server. So for web server, we are going to create an application load balancer. If your user more than millions traffic are coming in your website, so we have to configure network load balancer. In our practical purpose, application load balancer is very enough. And gateway load balancer, like we are going to configure our third using third security appliance like a checkpoint firewall. So you have to use gateway load balancer. There is also classical load balancer, but it's not there more because it's expired. So we are going to create application load balancer. Give this name. I'm going to give ELB, and we are using on internet. So I want to use internal. I am going to use for public. So I have to use internet facing. I am going to only use IPv4 address. If you are using both IPv or IPv6, then you have to select dual stack, and our default VPC is this. We have to select all three availability zone. Then we have to select our security group we are created in our security group, the ELB firewall, and then we have to select our target group. We are created already web server, and now at listeners, we don't need this, and now we are going to configure. So certain default attribute, create the load balancer, it's provisioning. So we have to wait, refresh this. So you see test status is active. Now copy your DNS and go to your tab and paste. So we are going to check our load balancer is working or not. So you are check the first web server. Now refresh second web server. Now you are going to see that this is my second web server. Whenever I am going to refresh, this is my first web server. So our traffic is equally load balancer. So refresh second web server and first web server. Now you can see that this is our ELB. Elastic Load Balancer is doing this for us. It's equally distributed traffic to our both instance. Every two request is going to transfer from one instance to another instance. So this is our ELB practical.